Okay, good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday night, March 10th, 2021. We are here tonight with We the Patriots USA for a very special broadcast, and that broadcast is a conversation with someone that I very much admire, someone who has become very well known across the country, someone who has stood up for freedom, has stood up for constitutional rights, and has become, something of a hero to many of us. From what I understand, he's a pretty modest guy, so he's probably not going to want to hear me go on too long about that. But without further ado, I'm going to welcome in the one, the only Ian Smith, owner of Atilis Gym. Hey, Ian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And, it's probably still kind of strange in some ways for you to hear me introduce you that way, the one, the only, because you are a reluctant celebrity, I assume. We had Shelley Luther here for a rally in Connecticut that we hosted. I'm sure you know of Shelley. We had her here for a rally in June. And she said the same thing. We announced her that way, the one, the only Shelley Luther. And she said, I can't get used to that. She's like, 6 months ago, I was a nobody. But so I'm pretty sure you know how that goes.
Yeah, it was unexpected, to say the least. It's something that I've kind of learned to embrace. But it's definitely, yeah, it's a little weird, especially at first, when all, especially, and I think I can speak for Shelley on this, because we've spoken quite a bit. All we wanted was to be left alone. Like, it was that's all we set out to do, was to be left alone. And, for better or for worse, here we are, where our voices matter and our voices are kind of depended on by a lot of people.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. I mean, there are a lot of business owners that I know feel the same way that you do, but we're afraid to speak up. We're afraid of the state. We're afraid to, take the Governor Murphy on head on, as you did at the Atilis Gym in South Jersey. And tell people, I mean, I'm sure most of the people watching, so we have a pretty large audience, but most of the people watching, know your story. But just tell us, if you can, from your perspective, how it was in the beginning, especially when you first did this, because I know this has been going on for a while, but how was the reaction in the local community, not only from customers, but from other business owners in South Jersey?
So my business partner, Frank, and we reluctantly shut down, just like, I think every small business owner in the country did. We weren't very excited about the idea of it. We knew that it was a slippery slope. To sort of just turn over all your rights like that. But at the time, it was, you were supposed to do the right thing. So when we announced reopening, we announced actually after Shelley. And when Shelley and I spoke at CPAC, I got the opportunity to meet her in person. And she was a big influence on us, because we were already we already knew that we were going to reopen when we were watching her reopen. And it was just a matter of how, and watching how she stood with such courage and bravery really inspired us. And to see the type of support that she got from the conservative community was a big influence on our decision as well. But once we announced it, I think we had announced really at a time. So we opened exactly 2 months to the day after the shutdown. And we announced about a week earlier publicly that we were going to do so, because we didn't intend to surprise anybody. It wasn't about, like catching the man off guard. It was saying, hey, you said 2 weeks, we gave you 2 months. You're not even talking about a plan to reopen. So we're gonna do it ourselves, and we're gonna do it publicly, so that hopefully we would inspire other businesses to say, hey, look at these guys. They did it safely. They're keeping, people's health in mind, but they're also getting back to business and not losing everything they worked for.
Right. And
yeah. Nonetheless, there were definitely mixed reviews. Especially in the beginning, it was almost like a dead center line down the center between the left and the right. Politically, even moderates on both sides fell very clearly on one side and the other. Your moderate Democrats were very kind of against it. And as soon as we announced, the phone did not stop ringing, and the emails and text messages and messages. And I would say the support was overwhelmingly positive, that we got, and that is and what has kept us going almost a full year into this battle. Is we've gotten so much support from people who either don't have a business of their own but understand the importance of what we're doing, small business owners who don't feel like they can open, or have their hands tied in some way. A lot of people have business partners and there's a split decision. So the support has been absolutely phenomenal, and I think that's something that a lot of people didn't realize and need to realize, is that the bulk of America now is behind you, especially a year out into this. The bulk of people do not want to abide by shutdowns. The bulk of people do not want to be forced to wear masks. The bulk of people don't want to go through this charade of public safety and public health. People just want to be able to go out to dinner. People just want to be able to go to the store like a normal person. So if you start running your business that way and you start defying these lockdowns, you will get a tremendous amount of support.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people weren't willing to find that out the hard way. They were afraid to find that out the hard way. There are some people that unfortunately lost their businesses, and what good did that do them? I know people personally, quite a few, and I'm sure you do as well, that lost their businesses through this because they were following the orders. So you've kept your business open, and even though you've been fined, I think something like $15,000 a day. Is that correct?
$15,497.76 per day, every day since October 6th, plus a couple days back in August.
Wow, I cannot imagine. But your fundraiser, though, has really taken off. If you don't mind, I'm gonna throw it up on the screen. Let me just get this.
Absolutely. That's
actually, hold on.
Yep.
Is that the right fundraiser? I want to edit it.
The Belmar court relief. Yes.
Okay.
So we've been blessed in a lot of ways. Because we stood up so publicly, we have received sort of the harshest of punishment, especially here in New Jersey with Emperor Murphy. Just the idea of fining a small business $15,497.76 per day. It's just ludicrous. How do
they come up with that calculation? Do you even know? I mean,
the calculation was based off of what Attorney General Stephen Slocum called our war chest. So this little link right here that you put on the screen is our war chest. That's what it was referred to in court, and it basically, they convinced the judge that we were being propped up by an army of supporters, and that there was no way that they would ever get us to abide by the lockdowns unless they took every single penny of that money. And that's what they aim to do. And they've gone way beyond that. I think we've fundraised somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000, which doesn't go very far when you're fighting the state. As we've learned, their strategy is typically to throw as many things at you as possible, so that in court you're just kind of like this, and you wind up just burning through a lot of money. But nonetheless, they sought to empty that, and the judge thought that was okay, even though those donations are strictly earmarked as legal defense money. So it's interfering with our right to counsel, and they'll openly talk about it in court, which is just a little bit of an insight into what these people think about due process and the Constitution and your right to go.
It's absolutely a travesty of justice. I'm an attorney myself. I'm not sure if you know that, but
I didn't.
I'm a civil rights attorney here, and actually I was connected with you through your attorney, Jim Mermigas, who's an awesome guy. I've known him for a while. He's a freedom fighter, and he truly believes in the cause. He doesn't just take on cases for money. That's the great thing about Jim, and he's a great lawyer. But I do want to say that, I fully understand what you're saying. We've been through it here. We took on the state of Connecticut. We filed a lawsuit against the State Department of Education and Governor Lamont for the mask orders in schools, which we felt were enacted unconstitutionally, and we got a really good decision just 2 days ago. The judge in the Superior Court issued a decision in which he agreed with us that the governor has likely exceeded his constitutional authority by having these perpetual executive orders without any kind of legislative input or oversight.
Yeah. They just run them back to back, which is not what they were never designed to do that. And it's a travesty not only in the judicial system that it's taken the judicial system that long to actually pick up on it, because cases have popped up all over the country, and it's good to see them finally going through, but it's sad to see them only going through 6-8 a year into this. It's the judicial system it's pretty banged up, but what's even more disappointing is the state legislature. The state legislature's sole job is, or not sole job, but state legislature's job is to make sure that they are regulating the laws in the state. And they all knew what the governors were doing with these back-to-back executive orders. And very few states stepped up and challenged them. I know for a fact here in New Jersey that the state legislature has absolutely no backbone. But these people are miserably failing at their jobs in a best case scenario. In a worst case scenario, they're willfully going along with what is just a charade at this point.
I would have to agree. The same thing is happening here in Connecticut and in New York as well with Governor Cuomo. I mean, I attended a protest outside his mansion a couple of months ago. And the funny thing, they had the sidewalk blocked off in front of Cuomo's mansion. So, because it's a public sidewalk, and it's all gated and it's all locked down. And it's just, I mean, they don't even have the stones to come out and face the people directly. I would at least have a shred of respect if you came out and talked to us and looked us in the eye and looked our children in the eye. This is what you're doing to our families. Because this isn't just affecting Ian Smith or Brian Fester. No. This is affecting the whole community. This is affecting children, families, the economy. And this is going to have a ripple effect, as you know, as a business owner, because you're a very successful business owner. So you understand business. This isn't going to just, the effects of this, it's not like you're going to reopen the state, unmask everybody, reopen all the businesses, and everybody's back to normal. You guys are in the red for a long, long time, and it's gonna take a while and not just you, but a lot of your fellow business owners. It's going to take a long time to recover from this. Did I lose you there, Ian? Can you still hear me? Okay, looks like we have a little bit of a technical difficulty. Hopefully he can connect back in here. All right. I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I cannot see you.
Okay, I am coming back in. I hope that you can see me. Let me just remove myself real quick from the... Well, you know what? Go ahead and talk, because I can see you, and apparently the audience can see you and I, so...
Okay. Well, I didn't quite catch the full gist of what you were saying, but last I heard before I cut out...
Just that it's going to take a really, really long time for businesses to bounce back, even after they fully reopen. It's not like you just reopen the state and then tomorrow everything's back to normal.
Well, it's not even about. I mean, it's about business, but it's about life in general. I mean, they have screwed everybody. If you're in the middle class or you're in the lower economic class, you've been screwed royally. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you typically agree with. If you're a middle class American, you got screwed in this. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a parent, whether you're a college student, it doesn't matter. They've royally screwed up everybody's life. They've taken essentially a year away from your productivity in most cases, and they've just thrown everything out of whack. People did not make nearly as much money as they should have made. Kids were pretty much out of school for an entire year, learning online, which I'm sorry, it's just the most absurd thing I've ever seen. These teachers and these school boards are acting like as if they're still educating children. And they're not. Let's make no mistakes about it. Just because you can, kind of fudge some test scores and make it seem like everybody's doing well doesn't mean these children are not suffering. Children are probably the biggest victim in all this, but families in general have felt this. And these governors who have done this, and these health officials who have done this have absolutely no remorse. But they're terrified to actually talk to the public about it, which is why they only hold press conferences with selected media in, which is why they vet questions, which is why they're pretty much never seen in public, because they know they'll get chastised for what they've done if they actually were to face the people that they claim to represent, the people that they claim to want to help. But it's not. These people will never have the stones to talk to you publicly. Through all of this, Governor Murphy has not even tried to contact us. You would think that as the governor of a state, that you would want to work with the people. And if small businesses are screaming throughout your state that you need help, that you need help, that you need help, and the best you can do is hold a daily press conference where you parade through the nursing home deaths, and act as if you're saving everybody by shutting down the country or the state. All of this is such a big sham. These people have really gotten one over on all of us.
It is.
And it's time. It's really like, and I've said this so many times. I feel like a broken record, but it's time to just stop listening. Like it's all of it, not just about business, not just about COVID restrictions. All of these things that these people push, the race baiting and the critical race theory and the social justice and all this nonsense that they do, and they act as if they're leading the country. It's time we stop giving these people any attention whatsoever and just get back to your life and stop letting these people tell you this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. You can have 6 members over for Thanksgiving, and maybe by next Christmas we'll allow you to have 10. And it's like, if we just stop listening to these people, they'll eventually just realize that they really don't have any power. It's just the fact so many people listen, and are so terrified to defy them.
And I want to share something with you, because what you're saying is a perfect segue to this. We've been saying here at We the Patriots that the time is now. We've been saying it for a couple of months at least. The time is now to just say enough is enough. And we actually made a commercial. And in hindsight, I wish that I had featured you in the commercial, but we made a commercial just talking about this very fact that we need to open up, and that they lied to us. They're hypocrites, like you said. They told us that this was going to be over in just like 14 days. And it's been a year now. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I want to, if you don't mind, I just actually want to share that with you. It's pretty brief. This commercial, and it's right on point with what you're saying. So I'm just gonna pull this up real quick and see if you can hear this. If you can, and let me know if you can hear it.
It's got the whole cast of characters, all the idiots.
Yep.
The fucking Santa, Jesus Christ. Awesome. Yeah, well put. I mean, and it's just time. I can't say it enough, and I won't stop saying it. But this is scary how quickly they were able to convince an entire country of people who are the freest people on the planet by far. America is the last beacon of hope when it comes to as close as you can get to freedom with a government structure. And they were able to turn that off overnight, where people were so afraid of something that is very, very normal. I mean, in 2019 and any year before, nobody ever batted an eye that 50,000 people die of the flu every year.
Right.
And nobody
and
ever
a lot
had
more
this,
from tuberculosis and meningitis and all these other things.
Yeah, that's just one thing. And there wasn't this weird existential guilt associated with you going to the supermarket with sniffle and worrying about what happened, 10 people down the line. People took Dayquil and went to work when they weren't feeling well,
Right.
and if you felt really bad, then you stayed home and you took some NyQuil and passed out for 2 days. And that was it. You didn't quarantine. You didn't notify all of social media that you came in contact with somebody with the flu. And it's gotten to the point of absurdity. And it's like,
It is.
they were able to do this overnight with, moving in lockstep with the media, with this constant fear mongering. And it's just crazy how much we let them take from us. And I truly hope that coming back from this, people remember that. And they're not so quick next time to say, sure, it's all in your control. We trust you. Because that's just not, you can't trust these people. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
Right. And it's a scary truth for a lot of people that they can't trust the people in charge, the people that they thought that they could trust, the government. I've known for a long time, as I'm sure you have, that you can't trust the government because someone has a title, because they're elected into office, doesn't mean that we can trust them. We need to get the right people in office. And I mean, I'm not going to break any news here, I don't think, tonight. But Ian, I would love to see you run. I don't know if you ever have any thoughts of running in politics, but we need a change. I mean, the last president we had, maybe the last president we'll ever have, he understood this. He understood that you can't be a politician. You have to talk to the people like a regular human being. And I mean, I could see it written all over your face. So, man, I really hope that you're at least thinking of it in the back of your mind.
I will be involved in some capacity in politics, I think, from here on out. Whether that is a suit and tie politician, I don't know if I would ever fit into that box. But that's kind of the problem, is that a politician was never meant to be a career.
No.
That's our founding fathers. None of them wanted to be politicians. George Washington, after the Revolutionary War, he's like, I'm going home. He went home to Virginia.
You did. You're right.
He reluctantly came back, after the first articles of Confederates that, they failed, because the government was too weak. They wanted him to be president, and he was reluctant to do so because he understood that it was hard work, and there was no personal gain in any of it back then. And somewhere along the way, we've lost that, where, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that there are good people and there are bad people. And if good people aren't running and stepping up into office, bad and shitty people will into office. And if you allow that trend to continue on long enough, which is what we're seeing, sort of, I think, the manifestation of a lot of years of bad governing all come to a head, right now with this massive, just out of control government that we have. But it should be no surprise that if nobody good is stepping up and you're allowing people who are career politicians to run things, that things are not going to go well, because it was never meant to be a lifetime career. It was never meant to do any of that. These people were meant to serve the public and get out of the way and allow the next generation and the next wave of people to come through and continue to build our republic. But now it's just it's a job that people want to be in for a lifetime, so they stuff their pockets and they protect themselves at all costs, and they serve themselves and their interests and their friends' interests above the interests of the people that they call to serve. So maybe there may be some political ambitions in the future, but as of right now, I have a mission at Atilis gym with my partner Frank that we set out to do, and unfortunately, there's not room for both in my life. But that does not mean that I will not continue to be a thorn in the side of Governor Murphy for as long as I need to be to get him out. And I will be involved in supporting good candidates. And that's kind of what a lot of us are working on now, kind of quietly behind the scenes, not necessarily forming some new party, but almost forming a party outside of politics. A large organization of people who believe in American values, the ones that this country was founded on, things like hard work, things like honesty, things like equality for all, not equity for all, those sort of things, and fundraise and then promote and endorse good candidates wherever they come from, but be able to help good candidates get the leg up into the political battlefield, because the ones that typically get approved by the establishment, whether it's on the left or the right, are not good people. These are people that are bought and sold long before you even hear their name. And we'd like to get some good people, whether it's a local election, a state election, or a federal election, to get good people out there. And I think that's something that we should all kind of focus on.
Absolutely. And I mean, just a note of hope, there are still a few good ones in New Jersey. I want to give a shout out to my friend Jamel Hawley. Do you know Jamel?
Jamel, yes.
Yeah, he actually was a great friend to us in Connecticut. He stood up for the medical freedom movement when we were having the legislation to remove the religious exemption, which is being proposed again this year. He came and fought with us. He rallied for us. He's a great guy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's definitely a few. The problem is they don't get the funding that they should from the party that they're aligned with, and it's hard to get the exposure. You know, if you don't have that money, it's very difficult to be a grassroots candidate. And I'd like to see a sort of an organization kind of come and gain some steam that is interested in promoting good candidates. Like, and I don't care if they're on the left or the right. That doesn't matter to me. I just want people who want to help their communities. And I think regardless of our political differences, promoting people who promote or who are in politics to serve the public, I think we'll be fine like that, whether we disagree on some points as far as conservatism versus liberalism, because the reality is that most people are somewhere pretty close to the center. Most people kind of zigzag across that line quite a bit. And if we were to get a good mix of just honest, real people in politics, then a lot of our problems would start to go away very quickly.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And I have to say, I think you've made a fan out of my mother, who I think is watching, because she constantly is talking about term limits. She says term limits. She said, if I were younger, I'd be right on the steps of the Capitol. And well, maybe not in the Capitol anymore in D.C., but she would be right there.
She'd be a domestic terrorist.
Well, that's what they say these days. She would be fighting for term limits because she said there is no way that someone like Joe Biden should be in Congress for 30, 40 years or plus.
So nothing but line your pockets and pass shitty legislation. She's right. That should be one of the biggest issues that we have coming up into the 2022 and beyond. That should be on the top of everybody's political list. We've argued long enough over abortions and this and that. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason the media talks about those things and always likes to stoke the fire on abortion and this and all these things that we just go back and forth over, but they never talk about term limits, and there's a reason for that. And if the media is not talking about it, then it's typically something that you want to look into.
Exactly.
And term limits, being able to set term limits would, I think, alleviate a huge amount of issues. You'd still have to be you still have to pay attention. You still have to watch these people who get elected. That's a problem in and of itself. People pay attention to politics during the primary season and then the election, and then they just turn a blind eye and say, all right, go do your thing. But with term limits, you wouldn't have a Nancy Pelosi, you wouldn't have a Chuck Schumer, you wouldn't have a Joe Biden. You wouldn't have pretty much 80% of the federal and state governments. You'd have fresh blood in all the time. And that would at least change things quite a bit, because people wouldn't be able to develop these deep roots into the government, and these deep roots with all these weird organizations and corporations that are just kind of funneling money to create policy.
Right. And and that's been going on for way too long. Ian, I don't want to spend too much more time because we are up against the half-hour mark, and I'm going to wrap it up here. But I just want to say you're getting a lot of love here in our audience from all over the country and the world. I've got someone watching from Dublin. Awesome. I've got someone else from New Zealand.
From Dublin.
Getting a lot of love for the beards. And hey, you said you don't fit the typical mold in the suit of a politician, but I definitely think I definitely think that beard would look good in a suit. And
maybe I can pull it off.
I think you could. Hey, listen. If some of the people that we have pulled it off, if AOC and Nancy Pelosi and people like that can pull it off, I think you can pull it off. And we are, and I know
I'm all right. Yeah.
I'm bashing on Democrats, but we are an apolitical organization. I just have to say that we're not a partisan organization. We just want good people in there to fight for fundamental rights and freedom, and that's what we're trying to educate people about. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure, and I wish you all the best. I'm going to continue to tell people to support your mission, to support your business, your legal fund, and I hope we can stay in touch, and I hope we can have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Contact me anytime. Thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye now.